The origin of friendship. In the sleepy coastal town of Willowacre, California, life moved at the slow, predictable pace of the Pacific tides. Among its close-knit neighborhoods and sun-bleached boardwalks, Emily Lawson and Olivia Turner's friendship took root. It wasn't anything flashy, just two girls, both outsiders in their own quiet ways, who found each other on a windswept playground in 4th grade. Emily, the daughter of a local librarian, was always reading, always asking questions her classmates found odd. Olivia, whose parents owned a small diner at the edge of town, wore her independence like armor. But together, they filled their days with laughter, bike rides along the cliffs, and whispered secrets traded in the afterglow of bonfire nights. It was Olivia who stood by Emily the first time she faced a rumor at school, and Emily who helped Olivia study through her many after-school shifts at the diner. Their friendship deepened through the messy, wonderful tangle of adolescence, sneaking into old drive-in movies, devising elaborate plans for the future. Olivia dreaming of running a business, Emily of working in advertising in the big city. Holidays and hardships were always shared. When Olivia's father was hospitalized, Emily sat outside the hospital for hours, with takeout and gentle jokes. When Emily's mom lost her job, Olivia was the one who organized a bake sale with the diner's regulars. They navigated prom dates and heartbreaks, crammed for SATs over endless cups of black coffee. And somehow, despite dreams of bigger things, both ended up back in Willowacre as adults, working to build the futures they'd always talked about. Their phones were filled with old photos, half-written messages, and short videos, memories they both cherished, and reminders of the kind of trust that only comes from years of growing up together in a world that often felt too small. No one in town ever doubted the strength of Emily and Olivia's bond. People would often spot them jogging by the ocean at sunrise, finishing each other's sentences without thinking. In a place where everyone knew each other's stories, their friendship seemed like one of the town's constants, the rare kind that felt unbreakable, the quiet anchor that kept two ambitious girls tethered, even as they dreamed of drifting far beyond the shoreline. The young man arrives. Emily's post-college life had settled into a rhythm that felt equal parts comfortable and confining. By day, she strategized ad campaigns and navigated the coffee-fueled chaos of her advertising firm. By night, she recharged at dinner with Olivia or lost herself in wind-blown walks along Willowacre's rocky shore. Despite the comfort, an undercurrent of restlessness lingered, whispers of bigger dreams, and sometimes the quiet ache of loneliness. It was during one ordinary Monday morning meeting that Noah Reed first walked into the agency's glass-walled conference room. There was nothing obviously remarkable about him. Brown hair tousled in a way that suggested both carelessness and charm, easy smile, and the kind of genuine curiosity in his eyes that caught Emily off guard. He was introduced as the new art director, recently relocated from Seattle, with a portfolio that somehow managed to impress even the most jaded senior staff. Their first project together was an intense, last-minute pitch for a local tech startup. Late nights, fast food dinners shared at Emily's cluttered desk, and the thrill of creative ideas bouncing naturally between them. Emily was surprised at how quickly she felt at ease with Noah. He listened, a real, thoughtful kind of listening she rarely encountered, and he brought an infectious energy to work that had been missing for a long time. Olivia noticed, of course. Over drinks after work, she teased Emily about the cute new guy and asked an endless barrage of lighthearted questions, both of them laughing about office gossip and first impressions. At first, it all seemed harmless, even fun. and Emily was grateful to share the blushing beginnings with her closest confidant. But as the weeks went by, Noah and Emily's professional collaboration grew into something more personal. Their text exchanges slipped from after-work project updates into inside jokes. There were impromptu lunches on the pier, car rides with music turned up loud, and the shy, electric moment when Noah took her hand during a weekend fare. Emily, usually guarded, let herself fall just a little, feeling surprised at how much she wanted to believe in the possibility of something new. What she didn't immediately notice was Olivia's shifting energy. Sometimes, during group outings, Olivia would fall silent, her eyes tracking Noah's movements with a strange intensity. Other times, she'd make offhand remarks or interrupt lighthearted moments between Emily and Noah, her teasing just a shade too sharp. Emily tried to brush it off, convinced she was reading too much into things. After all, they were friends. No, best friends. And that was unshakable, wasn't it? Still, for the first time in years, Emily felt the tentative flutter of genuine happiness, balanced precariously on the edge of something she could not yet name. The deep, unspoken trust between her and Olivia, and the hope that, just maybe, this new chapter could belong to both of them. Signs of betrayal. At first, it was little things, so small that Emily wondered if her own exhaustion was making her paranoid. A forgotten lunch, an unread message, Olivia arriving late for their Saturday morning jogs with vague explanations. Sometimes Olivia seemed distracted, her phone buzzing with messages she'd silence quickly and tuck away. There was an awkward energy at their usual spot at Harbor Cafe, an undercurrent that made routine conversation feel like treading water. Emily had always trusted Olivia's word, never questioning her loyalty, but now she couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that something had shifted between them. It started with Olivia canceling plans at the last minute, offering thin excuses about the diner or her parents needing help. Emily tried to brush it off. After all, adulthood was busy, unpredictable, yet there was a pattern forming, one she could neither name nor ignore. On a rainy Thursday, Emily sat at her kitchen table staring at her phone. There, in the group text she shared with Olivia and Noah, was a flurry of inside jokes and gifts she had somehow missed. When she scrolled up, she realized countless messages had been exchanged late the previous night, all while she was juggling a client's emergency brief at home. That wasn't the strange part. Not really. What bothered her was the tone, teasing, intimate in a way that made her chest tighten. She sent a quick, cheery reply, but the conversation fizzled fast, as if her presence had disrupted their rhythm. A few days later, Emily was working late at the office. The building was nearly empty, except for the cleaning crew. She stepped out to fill her water bottle and returned to find Olivia's name flashing on Noah's phone, left forgotten on the conference table. A message preview. Still on for later? Can't wait. Emily looked away, berating herself for even noticing. Surely it was nothing. Noah and Olivia liked each other. They were friends, weren't they? That night, she replayed that tiny window of doubt in her mind as she tried to sleep, convincing herself she was being irrational. But the signs kept growing. Olivia, once so attentive, now seemed to slip out of gatherings early, her laughter a half-tone too loud when Noah was around. Noah's manner changed as well. He started looking over his shoulder when Emily joined in, closing his laptop a touch too quickly or pausing in the middle of typing when she approached his desk. The weekend before her birthday, Emily was reviewing her monthly expenses when a notification from her bank app lit up her screen. Her checking account was suspiciously low. Confused, she scrolled through the transactions, her breath catching as she recognized a string of charges she hadn't authorized. Late-night ride shares, downtown, bar tabs, and boutique purchases. Her stomach dropped. She shared her banking app login with Olivia once, a year ago, during a wild week when Olivia lost her own phone. The memory flashed. Olivia on the couch, laughing. "Who needs biometric security when you have me?" Emily had never changed her password. She dialed Olivia, panic laced through her voice. But Olivia sounded tired, defensive. Are you saying I did this? You know me better than that. Give it a day, maybe it's just a mistake." On Monday, a drama unfolded at work. Emily was called into her boss's office. Serious faces, a thick dossier on the desk. Company secrets had been leaked. There were emails, time-stamped files, and VPN logs pointing straight to her. Emily's mind raced. She had been careful, always. When asked for an explanation, her words faltered. No one seemed to believe her. She was suspended, pending investigation. When she told Olivia in a tearful call, her best friend barely reacted. "That's awful, Em. What are you going to do?" Later that night, still in shock, Emily scrolled through her messages, desperate for comfort. She tapped on Olivia's chat head, only to see Olivia's recent status update, a boomerang clip at a downtown bar, Noah's laugh echoing in the background. Neither had told her they were there together. Emily started noticing small oddities in her digital life. Her laptop would flash strange notifications. The last login now sometimes showed a different timestamp than when she remembered using her work account. She combed through her phone, recalling how Olivia had once borrowed it, just to grab a few pics. Had she done more? The possibility chilled her. Intent on reclaiming control, Emily dredged up archived conversations, searching for clues she might have otherwise dismissed. In one voice memo, sent late at night, Olivia's voice, slightly slurred from drink, said, "He's different with you, Em. Sometimes I wish. Never mind. Good night." Reviewing old texts, she found Noah's responses growing less personal, more clipped, while Olivia's grew more flirtatious, peppered with winky faces, half jokes, and casual innuendo that Emily had glossed over at the time. In group chats, Olivia started tagging only Noah, making inside references Emily didn't understand. Once, Emily replied to ask what Olivia meant. Olivia answered only with, "You had to be there." One Sunday afternoon, Emily walked by the pier and spotted Olivia and Noah laughing on a bench, their heads bowed close, sharing a secret joke. They didn't see her. Emily lingered by a souvenir shop, watching them, her hand trembling as she raised her phone to snap a photo she never intended to use. Proof, for herself, that the trust she cherished was dissolving. In the following weeks, the chilly silence grew between her and Olivia, punctuated by defensive texts, delayed responses, and an endless, gnawing feeling that she was living someone else's life. She started recording her calls as a precaution, not out of spite, but self-preservation. She began archiving screenshots of awkward messages, receipts, voicemails, anything that might someday prove she wasn't imagining things. One evening, as October rain hammered the window pane, Emily sat alone, scrolling through the memories, the laughter, the phone calls, the secrets she'd shared with Olivia. What once felt like an unbreakable sisterhood now existed only in footage, forgotten chats, and corrupted trust. Each saved photo was a piece of evidence, each recording a lifeline as she prepared to confront the storm ahead. The signs were all there. In hindsight, a slow, gathering betrayal, too layered and messy to fix with a single conversation. Alone in the glow of her laptop screen, Emily finally admitted the truth she'd fought to avoid. Her world was changing, and the friend she'd always believed in was the one holding the match, the moment of collapse. Some downfalls arrive with a bang, some with a whisper. Emily's came with both, a tidal wave of humiliation and a silent erosion of trust that, bit by bit, hollowed out the core of her world. The call from the company's HR department had been the first domino. She sat motionless in the sterile meeting room, the hum of the overhead lights, the only sound between the clipped accusations and her trembling voice. Her manager's expression was unreadable as he slid her a folder. Evidence, emails she hadn't sent, files transferred from her account at strange hours, VPN logs matching her credentials. She stammered, denying, explaining, but no one met her eyes. She knew how it looked. Tech specialists had facts. Even the faces that once smiled at her in the hallway now watched with a kind of distant sympathy, as if betrayal by a friend was contagious. With her keycard deactivated, Emily packed her cubicle into a cardboard box that felt much heavier than it should. She passed the familiar posters, the potted plants decorated with co-workers' inside jokes, her own vision of a life she thought secure, and stepped into the cold afternoon wind, jobless and burning with a shame she didn't deserve. But unemployment was just the surface ripple. Beneath it, the real devastation waited. Later that day, her phone buzzed. A text from Olivia, just 2 lines. "Heard you're not at work anymore. I'm sure it'll blow over. Let's grab coffee sometime." There was no outrage, no disbelief, no real comfort, just emptiness hidden behind forced friendliness. Emily dropped her phone onto the bed, staring at the ceiling as tears finally came. She replayed every moment in recent weeks. Olivia's laughter in the group chat without her, the slivers of inside jokes, the flashes of Noah's smile caught in Olivia's Instagram stories. She scrolled, numb, back through all their photos, the late-night bonfires, the birthday cakes, endless texts when they'd once been each other's home. Evenings blurred into mornings. Her apartment, once her safe harbor, became a holding cell. She barely touched the takeout containers piling up on the counter. The blinds stayed closed. The world outside felt too noisy, too happy, too full of people who hadn't lost everything overnight. Time passed, not in hours, but in evidence. At first, she scrounged for logical explanations. Stress, coincidence, perhaps misremembered logins. But betrayal has a way of sharpening the senses. Old conversations played in her mind on a loop, exposing holes she'd ignored. Words set out of place, changes in Olivia's tone, the occasional look passing between Olivia and Noah when they thought she wasn't paying. Attention. Emily pulled her laptop close and started a new project. Not the creative campaign she'd once dreamed of, but a personal investigation. She combed her digital life. Emails, chat logs, bank statements, cloud backups. She had always been careful, a habit from working in advertising. Now that caution became her weapon. She found voice messages from Olivia, scattered across months, some sweet and supportive, others laced with passive-aggressive undertones. There were screenshots of conversations, a few where Olivia had asked for her password or borrowed her devices, always laughing it away. The real blow came from the voicemail Olivia had left after a night out, the voice thick with wine, words blurred. "You know, Em, you always get everything you want. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if for once you didn't." Emily hit replay, heart beating fast. Had this always been there? A darkness hidden in the easy warmth of friendship? Loneliness settled like a wet blanket over every corner of her life. No more job, no more best friend. Noah didn't call, didn't text. On social media, Olivia's life blossomed. Selfies with Noah at the farmer's market. Posts tagged at rooftop bars with their mutual friends. If there was guilt, Olivia buried it beneath new hashtags and filters. Emily wandered the streets of Willowacre, numb to the salt tang in the sea breeze, the laughter tumbling out of corner cafes, where she and Olivia used to plan their future. She cut herself off from everyone, the fear of disbelief, or, worse, pity, keeping her from reaching out. Even her own parents grew concerned, their calls gentle, but unable to penetrate the shell she'd built. There were moments when the grief was physical, a squeezing ache in her chest, her hands shaking as she tried to type job applications or emails to former colleagues, only to delete them, paralyzed by shame she couldn't explain. Other nights, she gave in to rage. An entire dining set thrown against the drywall, framed pictures of her and Olivia, once dusted weekly, dumped into the trash. But pain breeds clarity. With every sleepless night, her survivor's instinct sharpened. She cataloged every piece of evidence, the dates, the innuendo, the photos Olivia had sent her tauntingly. She recorded her phone calls with Olivia for her own records, screenshots, voicemails, receipts, more damning than memories, because memory can be questioned. Why Olivia? The girl who once bandaged her knee after a bad fall in middle school, who knew her favorite cereal and the song she played when she was sad. Why Noah, the man who made her laugh again, who'd said he liked that she was a little weird, that she didn't play games, or so she'd thought. The loss was not just of love or work, but of a sense of self. Emily felt picked apart, the best and worst of her on display, her trust used as a weapon. Even her own integrity was now suspect by her colleagues, her circle, herself. Finally, one evening as the sun bled out over the Pacific, Emily realized she had to choose: remain forever a ghost in her own life, or reclaim her power, however painful. She wiped her face, started a new folder on her laptop, untitled at first, then renamed For the Record. She compiled the audio, the screenshots, the bank records, the timelines. Each file was a piece of truth, a way to remind herself that no, she was not crazy. No, she hadn't made it up. No, she wouldn't let someone else control her narrative any longer. The world she'd counted on, friendship, love, security, had been shattered. But in its place, she found something else, rough and unpolished, a resolve not to disappear. Emily would not allow her story to end in defeat. She might no longer believe in happy endings, but she now knew she could write the next chapter herself, no matter what it cost. The choice to fight back. For weeks, Emily drifted in numbness, as if her life in Willowacre had slipped out from under her and left her floating above the ruins. But grief, she realized, is not a static state. It burns, hardens, and eventually transforms into something sharper, something actionable. In the darkness of her tiny apartment, with only the glow of her laptop screen for company, that realization first dawned. She'd been wronged, yes, and if she could not rewrite the events, then at least she would refuse to let them define her in silence. She owed herself more than that. It started with tiny rebellions. One night, as rain hammered her window and thunder rolled over the Pacific, Emily opened the ever-growing folder on her desktop, now labeled For the Record, and began sorting fact from feeling. Scrolling methodically from screenshot to screenshot, she cataloged every suspect message, every shifted sentiment, every audio file captured late at night when Olivia's guard slipped. She drafted chronological timelines, piecing together not only her own memories, but the digital footprints left behind by carelessness or arrogance. She spent hours re-listening to the worst moments. Olivia's voice, brittle and mocking, in a voice memo, the clipped, businesslike tone Noah now used in his texts, as if rewriting their history to burnish his new narrative. But more than the evidence, it was the emotional labor, the reliving of every wound, however small, that almost broke her resolve. At times, she would stop, heart stuttering, staring at the screen through hot tears, wondering, what if this is pointless? What if no one believes me? She remembered Olivia laughing at her, calling her paranoid, for even suggesting someone would access her bank or email without permission. The thought left a bitter taste, yet only strengthened her intent. Even if she stood alone, she needed the truth out in the open. The decision of what exactly to do with this proof wasn't immediate. At first, Emily considered delivering the evidence privately, perhaps emailing Noah, or sending Olivia a single damning message for closure. But that struck her as weak, even cowardly. This wasn't about revenge, she reminded herself, but justice. She was tired of being erased, belittled, sidelined in her own life story. If she kept this hidden, Olivia and Noah would continue with their guilt-edged narrative, their small-town fairy tale, while she bore the brunt of the fallout. No more. Gradually, an idea took root, a distinctly modern kind of reckoning. Emily had always admired the power of media, of stories told unvarnished and true. What if she used her skills, storyboarding, video editing, presenting a narrative, to give herself a genuine voice, not just for catharsis, but as a way to reclaim her truth and shatter the illusion that Olivia's betrayal was invisible or consequence-free. So, she began. Night after night, fueled by black coffee and stubborn pride, Emily transformed her folder of broken trust into a visual narrative. She set up her phone on a battered tripod, pressed record, and spoke directly to the camera. She told her story not as a victim, but as a witness, steady, unsparing, holding nothing back. She showed the world the shifts in Olivia and Noah's behavior, the overlooked details, the sequence of financial theft, and the targeted sabotage at work. Every accusation came with concrete, time-stamped proof. She layered in footage, the voicemails where Olivia, emboldened by drink, let slip all her resentment, screen recordings of suspicious charges draining Emily's checking account, split-screen texts showing emotional triangulation and secret plans. Over it all, Emily narrated her heartbreak, her confusion, and ultimately, her unwavering insistence on honesty. Editing was an act of defiance and catharsis. She taught herself new tricks, voiceovers, text highlights, slow-motion replays of the most crushing revelations. Sometimes the process left her shaking. Other times, she found herself strangely calm, watching her digital self grow strong as the minutes ticked by. The finished product was equal parts vlog, docuseries, and confession, a truth bomb waiting for its audience. Still, the question of when and how to release it gnawed at her. Quiet confrontation, anonymous upload. Emily wanted neither spectacle nor quiet vengeance. She wanted accountability. As if answer to an unspoken prayer, the invitation arrived. A glossy white envelope with elegant script, addressed to her, inviting her to Olivia and Noah's wedding at the Willowacre Community Hall. It was perfect. The guest list read like a roster of the town's most influential, former co-workers, mutual friends, even some of Emily's estranged relatives. This was the grand performance Olivia and Noah had always craved, the finale to their carefully curated love story. If truth was ever to cut through the curated pictures and speeches, it would have to be here. In the days before the wedding, Emily rehearsed not her appearance, though she would arrive looking resolute and unbowed, but the moment itself, walking into the glowing reception hall,
Oh.
slipping the flash drive to the DJ with instructions, her palms sweating as she watched the happy couple weave through the crowd. She imagined the lights dimming, the music fading, the gentle hum of conversation giving way to the opening seconds of her video, a face lit by justice, not vengeance, telling the story no one wanted to hear. On the eve of the big day, Emily slept less than an hour. She packed her bag, backup drives, her phone, her presentation notes, everything prepared with the diligence of someone who refused to be blindsided again. She checked and double-checked her evidence, sent herself encrypted copies, memorized her opening lines in case the chance arose to introduce the video herself. She wasn't naive. She knew nothing she did could ever restore what was lost, let alone guarantee everyone saw things her way. Some might dismiss her as bitter, or crazy, or vindictive, but none of that mattered now. This wasn't about convincing everyone, just about telling the unvarnished truth, and letting those who mattered decide. If she had to stand alone, so be it. There was dignity in that, too. As the sunrise crept through her curtains, Emily smiled for the first time in months. Her story would be told. Let the world do what it wanted with the truth. At least, at last, it would no longer be a secret. The fateful wedding night, the day of Olivia and Noah's wedding, dawned cool and clear, with a faint trace of Pacific mist clinging to Willowacre's coastline. The entire town seemed to buzz with anticipation. White ribbons and wildflowers decked every lamppost, and the local bakery's air was sweet with layered cakes and laughter. For most, the ceremony was meant to be a union of two beloved locals, a highlight in a sleepy year. For Emily, it was a reckoning. She rose early, forcing herself through the motions of a morning routine she barely recognized anymore. Her fingers shook as she zipped her simple, elegant dress and pinned her hair. When she looked in the mirror, she didn't look ruined. Her eyes were steady, her face was tired, but there was a new line of resolve beside her jaw. She thought of the evidence, her plan, and the video file, salted away on 2 flash drives, her phone, and a password-protected cloud folder, just in case. By afternoon, Willowacre Community Hall glowed beneath strings of fairy lights. Guests drifted inside, sun-kissed and splendid, in shoes brushed clean from the sand. Familiar faces mingled, cafe regulars, her old boss, childhood teachers, gossips and true friends, all swirling into a shifting sea. Olivia was radiant in lace and pearls, her laughter huge and bright, the kind that once drew Emily in like a warm fire after a cold rain. Noah, handsome in navy, wore an anxious smile, reaching for Olivia's hand more often than he used to. Emily slipped in quietly, unnoticed at first. She kept to the far end of the ballroom, near a table of wobbly flower arrangements. Her heart pounded as she watched Olivia work the room, bestowing hugs, welcoming toasts, untroubled under every spotlight. For a moment, Emily wondered if she was the only one who still remembered the hurt. Did anyone else see the cracks? Or was she as invisible as Olivia's shadow? Speeches flowed. Glasses clinked. Olivia's aunt told a rambling story about the girls' childhood adventures. Noah's best friend made a half-hearted joke about long office nights. Every detail seemed staged, perfectly curated for the social feeds, already filling with hashtags and filtered candids. The moment approached. At her side, the black case holding the flash drive felt heavier with each passing minute. Emily's palms grew sweaty, her mind whirling through her rehearsed lines and backup plans. She watched the DJ banter with servers by the tech booth, then checked her phone. Her video was ready, the thumbnail a still of her own grave face, lit by desk lamp. Her chance arrived in a pause between courses, just after the first dance. The music faded. Olivia stood in front of the crowd, a microphone trembling between her fingers, preparing to thank everyone for their support. Her chosen family, she called them. Emily's legs moved her forward on their own, across the polished floor and the arch of lit candles. The world seemed to hush, as if even the distant ocean was waiting. Emily reached the DJ just as he queued up the next song. Her voice was low but calm. "May I play something, please? It's for them." The DJ barely glanced her way. She could have been anyone's cousin or out-of-town friend, but he nodded, reading the conviction in her eyes. Her hands didn't falter as she pressed the blue flash drive into his palm. He slid it into the deck, and before the song could resume, the ballroom screens flickered to black. At first, people thought it was a technical problem. Murmurs rose softly, glasses clinked. Olivia let out a nervous laugh. But then a pale light bloomed across the big projector, and the opening frame of Emily's video filled the wall. Her own voice, measured, unsparing, broke the silence. "I owe this story to the truth, to those of you who know me, and those who think you do." Footage cut in, text threads, time-stamped authentically, Olivia's voice, sometimes sweet, often mocking, leaking through old voice notes, screen recordings of drained accounts, and suspicious login attempts. Photos flashed up, undeniable in their honesty. Olivia and Noah's increasingly intimate chats. Group messages that left Emily out. A rapid-fire sequence of late-night meetups. As the narrative built, the evidence grew impossible to ignore. The crowd stilled, jaws clenched. Whispers ricocheted across the linen-covered tables. Some guests seemed transfixed, shocked by the accumulation of digital traces and the simplicity of Emily's narration, a heartbreak woven with the steady force of proof. Noah's color drained. Olivia's smile collapsed, lips pressed thin and white beneath the projector's glow. She tried to interrupt, stepping forward. A bridesmaid reached for her arm, but Olivia shook her off. The air turned brittle. Emily refused to look away. By the halfway mark, gasps erupted. Emily kept her head high, never wavering as her own face, tired but resolute, concluded. "This isn't revenge. This is me refusing to be erased. Let the story stand as it is." The video ended not on a dramatic note, but with silence. No music, no credits, just the room's collective breath held tight. The screen went dark. For a moment, no one moved. Then the dam broke. A swell of voices, shuffling feet, chairs scraping back as people clustered and argued, seeking Olivia or pointing at Noah, demanding explanations, apologies. Olivia stood frozen, a statue in white, mascara smudging as old friends avoided her gaze. Noah's arm found hers, then dropped away. Emily, heart churning, felt a strange and unexpected calm. She had not come to humiliate, but to reveal. This was her truth, and nothing could take it back. As she moved to leave, several guests pressed her hand, murmuring words she couldn't quite process. Sympathy, sorrow, sometimes even gratitude for her courage. Behind her, Olivia's carefully built world was already cracking, the whispers growing sharper and more public with every second. The fairy tale was over. There was nothing more for Emily to say. She stepped outside into the coastal night, the sound of crashing waves mingling with the residual music and the echoes of stories overdue for the telling. That night, the world of Willowacre did not end, but it shifted, its truths finally brought into the light. And for Emily, however lonely the road ahead remained, it was the first night in months she could raise her head to face the dawn. Rebirth from pain. After the wedding night, Willowacre shuddered with ripples of gossip and sympathy. But for Emily, the air felt cleaner than it had in months. She woke the next morning in her quiet apartment to the unfamiliar sensation of relief, crisp and a little bewildering, washing through her like the morning tide. The drawers were still cluttered with memories, concert stubs, tacky friendship tokens, faded photographs, but the ache in her chest had begun to loosen its grip. For the first time in a long while, she did not feel erased. But rebirth is not instant, and pain does not dissolve with a single act of courage. It recoils, then seeps back, seeking ways to linger. In the wake of her revelation, Emily faced days of stunned silence, alternating with a barrage of messages, some supportive, some questioning, some enraged. Old friends, previously distant, sent cautious words of admiration. "I can't believe you went through all that." Many others kept their distance, wary of getting too close to the fallout zone. Willowacre's small-town intimacy meant everyone knew something and guessed it more. Olivia's parents stopped showing up at the diner. Noah vanished from social media, and whenever Emily passed by the old boardwalk, heads turned away or craned furtively in her direction. She understood. When someone upends the town's favorite story, no one knows whether to offer flowers or pitchforks. Emily cut her hair the second Sunday after the wedding, staring at the mirror while damp clumps fell like dead weight into her sink. She gave away the mug Olivia had painted for her on her 22nd birthday, boxed up the framed photos from their high school days, and bundled Noah's old hoodie into the donation pile. The purging hurt, but each act was a reclamation, a small, practical promise that her life would no longer be dictated by nostalgia or resentment. The habits of sadness remained. She still woke in the earliest hours, pulse racing, mind replaying scenes she never wanted to remember. Some days, she scrolled endlessly through old group chats, reading Olivia's messages for the 1,000th time, still unable to trust the betrayal. Sometimes, she'd catch herself wondering if she'd acted too harshly, if her proof was enough, if there was a world in which forgiveness and trust could be rebuilt. But each time she recognized these thoughts as remnants of a self who needed permission to exist. She wrote them down in a private notebook. Then, one evening, she tossed the entire notebook into a beach bonfire, watching the pages curl into ash. Ironically, the end of her job had liberated another piece of her. She'd always been brilliant with words, strategic thinking, and digital storytelling, but now those skills belonged to her alone. She took on freelance projects at first, wary and tentative, designing websites and managing campaigns for Willowacre's small businesses. Each new client, each satisfied review in her inbox, was a step away from pain and toward validation on her own terms. She joined a weekly writing group at the Coastal Library, at first sitting at the back, arms folded, listening more than speaking. The group was eclectic: a retired nurse, a poet who ran the flower shop, a high school student writing a mystery novel. No one cared about social media drama or boardroom sabotage. With them, Emily found her voice, drafting stories that bore the echoes of her heartbreak, but reached for something beyond rage. She called her parents and, for the first time since childhood, told them everything: her loneliness, the betrayal, the terrible ambiguity of trusting the wrong people, her fear of being seen as the villain in her own story. Her mother's tears were quiet, her father's comfort gruff and steady. Both promised that pain lied. "You are not ruined, you are remade." With time, Emily began opening herself up to new friendships, slowly, awkwardly, without the easy shorthand she'd had with Olivia, but with more honesty than before. She learned to laugh again, at first performing, later for real. She went hiking with her neighbor's dog, baked bread for the cafe crew who'd once whispered about her on slow mornings, and hosted a game night for her writing group. For every small act of connection, she was rewarded with a glimmer of normalcy. Proof that the world, even bruised, still wanted her in it. Forgiveness was more complicated. She did not answer the handful of apology texts Olivia sent in the months after the wedding, nor did she unblock Noah's number. She imagined what she might say if she saw them on the street. Nothing vindictive, just a simple acknowledgement of the vast, uncrossable distance. Occasionally, regret flared. What if she'd been kinder, harder, quieter, louder? She let the thoughts pass, recognizing that healing was not about vindication, but about gentleness with herself. Each Sunday, as the sun slanted gold across the cliffs, Emily jogged the familiar coastal path. She no longer needed to count the miles as penance or to race her thoughts. She paused at the windswept overlook, breathing salty air, letting her shoulders relax in the late afternoon hush. Sometimes she found herself crying, sometimes smiling, most often simply silent, content in her own uncertain, solitary company. Months passed. The digital folder for the record remained, updated with only one document, a short note she wrote herself. I am allowed to survive and still hope. She began outlining a novel. It was, inevitably, about friendship and betrayal, about the ways people invent themselves in the eyes of others, and about the quietly radical act of choosing survival. The writing was slow and imperfect, but it was hers alone, untouched by other people's versions. Slowly but surely, Willowacre started looking new to her, as if pain had created a different map of the world. The corner bakery was no longer just the place Olivia loved. It was where Emily treated herself to chai and almond croissants on stormy mornings. The boardwalk became a place for solitary walks, podcasts in her ears, and ideas brewing for her book. Home was her own, a space not haunted by loss, but bright with new promises. On the anniversary of the wedding, Emily met with the writing group at sunset, a tradition she'd initiated. She brought homemade scones, and someone else brought wine. They shared stories, not of betrayal, but of beginnings and hard-won victories. When the sky blushed purple and the first stars blinked awake, Emily raised her glass. The group toasted, laughter mingling with ocean wind. Emily sat back, the old ache still murmuring, but no longer in control. She was not whole, and maybe never would be, but she was free. She was writing her own story again, one scar and one bright morning at a time. Her rebirth was not a single, blinding moment. It was a series of choices: to let go, to begin again, to claim the ordinary. Joys that pain once tried to steal. And as twilight deepened over Willowacre, Emily understood she would never let herself be erased, not by betrayal, and certainly not by fear. The girl who had once stared at the ceiling, broken, now watched the horizon, unafraid of whatever dawn might bring.